the Dream 100 Show. The epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tesner.
Friction or frictionless. One of the areas that is constantly grabbing your market share, stealing your customers, costing you to lose customers, clients, visitors to your shop is friction. What I've discovered over the last 20 plus years in doing this, there's a lot of hidden areas that I would say steal your money. Now, you've got some that are obvious. You've got taxes, and you've got losing customers, and you've got just crazy things that can happen that can kind of steal your money. But those are a little bit more obvious. We, on the other hand, have areas that you may or may not be aware of that are happening day in and day out that you can't put a pulse on. And that is what I call friction. In today's episode of the Dream 100 Show, I'm going to go over a couple of spots from getting a customer client to then after the sale that you can laser target to see where is that leaky faucet that you're like, geez, I didn't even know it was leaking. Now, the good news is that this is one of those little hinges that swings big doors. It's one of those topics that we can laser in on one or two or three of these things and improve them slightly, and then all of a sudden that leaky faucet stops. So to make this even more real, I decided to go on an exercise over the last week or two, and I picked a whole bunch of different things that I was looking at having done around my house. So we are looking at new carpet, we need some painting work. I wanted to look at, would be lovely in Buffalo, a heated driveway, which I found out is much harder than I thought. We want some landscaping work. So I made a list of all the things, and I'm like, okay, I want to go and I want to document this process. And what I wanted to look for was, where are the friction points in making me a potential customer? And these are all legit things that I'm looking for. It's not just for me to come on here and appease you and give you some data and to be able to say I did something live and here's the data, but rather like we're legitimately looking for a whole variety of projects around the house. Now, unfortunately, the home services niche in and of itself tends to be pretty crappy at this particular process. And I'm going to give you some that excelled, and I'm going to tell you where I found the most friction, and I want you then to go and explore. Now, before I go down this path, our listeners have all different types of businesses. I don't just speak to one. This isn't a niche-specific podcast for one type of business. So what I'm looking for you to do is, as I talk through this, I want you to hire as in pay, a couple of people to secret shop whatever it is you do. And in particular, I'm looking for them to secret shop you to get to the place of placing an order or becoming a customer. All of those, okay? So let's start with looking for carpet. So as I normally do, I do some type of Google search. And I went to Google and I typed in new carpet near me. So if I want to have to go look at carpet and feel it and all that kind of fun stuff, I want to see something that is not 45 minutes from my house. I want something that's kind of close. And there were 50 plus listings that kind of came up. Obviously not 50 in that Google 3-pack, but lots and lots of companies that do carpet. So I picked one of the sponsored ads, I picked one of the ads from the Google 3-pack, and then I scrolled down a little bit and picked another company in the middle. All three companies, when I called, you got to come in. You've got to come in and talk to us. We can't give you pricing over the phone. And I went through and I asked the same questions to each around, hey, I've got a dog. Is there any carpet that's better for a dog? Do you have an average price? I don't want to drive out there until I know either you're in my ballpark range. Can I actually afford this? And all three of them just continued to push for, I can't tell you, we've got a big selection. You just got to come in person. So when you pause there for a second, do you have a product or service that there's no way that you can have any kind of conversation on the phone, that they have to physically come in and see it? You might say, well, Michael, we sell cars. Did you know that most people, before they buy a car, they've already picked it out? They've already done all their research. They're literally just walking into the dealership to sign papers, try and negotiate, and often the negotiation is even done beforehand. I did a whole episode on this exact topic when I went to buy a new vehicle. I literally drove 8 hours to pick out a particular vehicle that I had already negotiated with, picked out the vehicle I wanted. I didn't even test drive. Literally drove up, 45 minutes, got the vehicle, I'm gone. That's it. So are there going to be some situations where you've got to get them in person? Yeah, they're going to have to get in person at some point for a lot of things you offer. But if you take a couple of steps back and you start to look at this whole friction concept, today's buyers have changed. They often don't even want to talk on the phone. So we're going to switch to some other findings in just a minute. And I'll stick with the carpet, and then I'll move over to another one. They don't want to call. So if they do call, that means they're serious and they want some details. They're going to go to price. They're going to go, they're shopping around, and they are much more often making a decision and then walking in to buy rather than the other way around. So if your entire business model is built off of you're hoping that they go to 5 other carpet places, there's not that many differences when it comes to carpet. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, carpet's carpet. Yes, there's different styles and pads and things, but I don't think I need to shop around to 50 different places to save $10, for example. So why not have all the details ready to go? Well, I'm so glad that you called. Obviously, we want to show you our products in person. You can pick out colors, and I can connect with you on that today if you've got time, but let me give you some details now so you can make a good decision. Nobody went down that path. It was all, well, we can't tell you much. We got different specials. Come on in. People want to know price. They want to know whatever their 2 or 3 or 4 hot buttons are, price being one of those. They want that answer from the phone. If they're writing you, if they're calling you, if they're emailing you, they want that data. They don't want to be told you've got to come in. So that was friction point number 1 that I need you to really take a look at. Number 2, I jumped over to looking for concrete, and in particular, what a heated driveway would cost and what's the process. So this time, I found some companies. I used a combination of Google and ChatGPT, got their phone numbers, and I sent text messages. And I sent out 7 text messages. Of those 7, 4 of them were read in minutes, and I got 1 reply within that day. I had awkward pause there. 1 reply same day. I got 2 more replies about 2.5, 3 days later. So 3 out of the 7 replied. I believe they were all cell phone numbers that I had sent a message to. But if that's a friction point, and that's you're losing leads because your team isn't responding or you're not responding, that's another point that needs to get cleaned up. Now, the 2 that responded then wrote back and said, can I call you on this number? Why would I want to call if I sent a text message? You need to take 5 steps back and look at, if somebody wants to give you money, how do they want to do business with you? And can you bend a little bit, not on your rules, but on the way that you're conducting business? Why would you be open from 10 to 5 on a weekend If you have a product or service that people need to come into your location, why would you be open 10 to 5 during the week? Well, people kind of come in during the weekend. They want to come in a little, they're good there, but we don't get a ton of people during the week. Well, what if you were to test your hours around a little bit? If you're a paint store, how likely do you think it is that someone's going to want to come into your location after 5 p.m. during the week to buy paint, to start painting a room or something like that? The chances are pretty high. That's another friction point. How do you do business? How are you responding? How quick? What devices? I then moved on and I started messaging a couple of painting companies, and I messaged them on Facebook and their website, and that was just an absolute disaster. So if it's hard to even then get to the place where I want to give you money, you can only imagine how hard you are to do business with. Now, when you get to that place of doing business, I got ready. I was going to engage one of these companies. So great, I can take cash, check, or money order. And I said, I can do Venmo, credit card, Zelle. No, I don't do any of those. Another friction point. I need you to take, again, not just 1, 2, but 5 steps back and get some outside secret shopping people to talk about where there's friction in doing business with you and have you pick 1 or 2 of these to improve. Now, after someone's became a customer, and the best way to get feedback here is you survey your existing customers, past customers, and you ask them open-ended questions. Are there things that we could have done differently? How can we better serve you? Were there any parts of the process that were frustrating to you? Like, you ask them open-ended questions. And what I'm looking for there are where are points of friction. Well, once a month we have billing issues. I gotta look at every invoice you send me because for some reason something seems to be wonky every single month, and I have to spend 30 minutes on this, and it's very frustrating. Another person, well, you always give me an appointment time and you're an hour late, and that's really frustrating. Now, a lot of these things you may not have even been told, but you're going to start to boil up lots and lots of ideas. Now, you're going to get ticked off when you read these, but if you don't want to keep losing customers, if you don't want someone to go to your competitors, you need to know what are the things that piss your current customers off about you. We have one business that we work with that is not open on Fridays. I wish I could close my doors on Fridays. And it always seems like we have an issue on a Friday and we can't get a hold of them until Monday. We have switched vendors. My veterinarian, I'm going to give you just random things. I'm getting ready to switch vets. There's friction every single time I call their front desk. They're probably one of the worst that I've ever experienced. I don't know how their reviews are so high. They're always running at least 30 to 60 minutes behind. They waste my time. When I'm sitting in the waiting room, their Wi-Fi is terrible. Often I have no reception. So all of these friction points, and I can assure you that if they were to ask their customers these things, they're going to hear very similar things. You've got to be easy to do business with, easy to engage with. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So look at what's that 1 or 2 area, or 1 or 2 areas on the becoming a customer that you can look at enhancing. Maybe you don't like to text. Well, if everyone else likes to text, you're going to have to make a little bit of a change. Maybe you've got to try out some different business hours. So, well, how could we figure out if people are, well, you can see when people are visiting your website and sending you messages after hours. Maybe you need an after hours call center that can actually answer questions and solve problems, not just take a message. And then when you get a customer, you need all of that good feedback, from billing to the actual service to if you want to upsell, you want to add something on, you want to change order. What are all of those areas, and where is the friction? The easier you can do business with, the most frictionless process, the absolute better. This is your year to make so much more money, so much more impact. I need you to remove friction. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.